Welcome everybody to episode one of Extra Time. Sophia, Jahmai, and Adam. Guys, this show is obviously new. I just said episode 1, but going to be a bit of a different podcast than a sports podcast where we're sports heavy in the sense of stats, analysis, and all that. All three of us take turns reporting, hosting, doing different things at NESN. So this is kind of like a catch up with friends for the week and a little bit of behind the scenes stories, stuff that, you guys are experiencing on the road, at home. Adam's doing both jobs right now, Red Sox and Bruins. Jahmai, it's your day off, air quotes. Not anymore because you're working right now.
Here we go.
And the Bruins are deep in
Out
the
the gate.
playoffs. So out the gate. Hey, out the gate. That's what people need to know, though. The industry is not as glamorous as it seems. You deserve to sleep in, but you've been up, you're working, and you're doing this podcast. So, welcome. Hope you're not too mad about it.
No, I'm in hot Atlanta, enjoying this beautiful day from my hotel room. So I'm very excited about that. I just think it's funny. This is kind of I guess, a small little sneak peek into our relationship because initially you come out welcoming these wonderful viewers and listeners, and then you start immediately by getting on me. So that's pretty much how Sophia rolls. But yeah, no, it's very exciting. I'm pumped about it. Because you guys don't call, you don't write, you don't return my text anymore. So this is the way that we all can get together. So I certainly appreciate that because I love you both dearly and some of my favorite people at NESN.
No, it's tough. It is tough. Like Jahmai, I see Adam so much more, but Adam and I would have these hallway catch ups for 5 minutes. Adam, you'd stand over the cubicle asking about my life. I remember once I barely knew Adam. He asked me how life was going. This was like years ago. I'd just broken up with my ex-boyfriend now, and I was like crying 2 minutes into talking to him, all this kind of work. Yeah, literally Adam's like, oh, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine. And you and I, Jahmai,
Well,
we
can
don't
we
see
get
each
into
other
that?
opposite.
Can we get into that? Actually, I would love to get into that.
We got into that at the
that's
time.
news to me.
We did get into that at the time.
No, I'm saying like 3 years ago. I'm saying 3 years ago. This is a long time ago. That story's been done, Jahmai. You heard all the news with that story. But yeah, we used to catch up because we used to be on the same show, and now opposite schedules. But that's the nature of the business. Like I love you guys, like Jahmai said, I love you guys, but we don't get to see each other. And Adam and I, even though we're working on the same team, he's somewhere else. He's on the road usually. I'm home, so it is kind of like two ships passing in the night, right, Adam?
Yeah, I thought I'd see you a little bit more because the last couple of years I've been working with you technically on the Bruins coverage, and we don't see each other because if if the game's at home, you're up on the fifth floor. If the game's on the road, obviously I'm on the road and you're in studio, so we don't see each other a lot. I mean, with that said, I see you a lot more than Jahmai. I mean, we used to have a news program, right, that we would do nightly. And so, I did that primarily along with Red Sox stuff. And then you guys in your off seasons would pop in and host shows. I think, Jahmai, actually, when you started at NESN, you were hosting news. So we got to work with each other a lot more and see each other a lot more. But then when you went to the Red Sox beat, like 7-8 years ago now, you would just pop in occasionally in the off season.
You don't even have a desk?
Took a desk away.
No, I basically, I got a spot downstairs that I've hijacked. One of our producers actually who left recently, Mike Eamon. So I basically come in, I sneak into his desk, and I got like boxes. It feels like my whole life is perpetually in transition. So I think that is very much the theme of this Red Sox season for me so far. But I think you share with TC,
your desk was
right?
the best. Yeah, I mean, TC's barely at my desk.
Personalized stickers.
Yeah, you had
I should tweet that out, actually,
Adam,
because people would be
his
interested to
desk
see
had
that.
Yeah, you were right next to me. We were neighbors
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
And actually, it makes me think about my desk because I've been on the road so much that I used to have a desk that I had all the pictures set up, had everything set up neatly, had all like these cool things. And I haven't been at it. And it's like collecting dust. Other people, I think, are sitting at the desk. They're knocking stuff over. I know one of your bobbleheads once, Jahmai, got broken, or maybe more than one.
R.I.P., man, R.I.P.
So, yeah, that can happen
Which
when you leave it
bobblehead?
unattended.
Which bobblehead?
I mean, probably I should have done an investigation, actually. There's probably about 4 or 5 that I go away for a couple weeks, come back, and miraculously I got a head broken, I got an arm, I got a bat missing. So I think one of the more famous ones, like my Rafi Devers bobblehead, is headless. I know that.
Damn.
So I don't know who breaks it. We used to, toss the ball around and do stuff like that. So I'm not entirely sure. I
But
never did find out, but
that's
somebody's
road
guilty.
life, right? Like my desk, I mean, now that I'm hosting a little bit more, I'm in the office every road game, but it was dusty. There was nothing there. That's
Yeah.
road life. You're on the road a lot, which so we have a little bit of a lineup, like a rundown for this show, and I'm actually flipping it already. Sorry, Carolyn, our producer, who gave us an order. I'm going backwards, but because we're talking about road and you being on the road, one of the questions was like, what's the best road city? You're in Atlanta right today. I don't know what you had planned for the day as the Red Sox aren't playing, but maybe take us through that. Or what's your favorite city to visit? We can all have a little chime in. Mine's going to be a very hot take. I think you guys are going to be surprised at what one of my favorite cities
I
is.
can't
But
wait to hear
Jemai, you
this.
go first. You go first,
Yeah,
Jemai.
so I had big plans today and had to reshift that to be with my two friends here. So you guys both owe me big time for this. No, I'm just kidding. So I mean, I still um hopefully I can do some things that I wanted to do. And most of it was like just catching up on bills and stuff because I feel like a lot of times when I'm on the road for extended periods of time, because with baseball you're on the road for no more than 10 games, which is the maximum. You're at home for also no more than 10 games. That's actually something I didn't know before I got into this role. I just thought like you play the schedule and it is what it is. But that kind of works in your favor, and it also kind of goes against you at times depending on if you have a schedule like we did out the gate, starting the year out on the West Coast and then ending spring training in Texas. So we were in Texas for 2 games, and we went to Seattle, then we went to Oakland, then we went to Anaheim, and after what? It was like 15, 16 days on the road, finally get home. So I still feel like my body is catching up from that. So these days off come at a premium, which is basically the point I was making with today in Atlanta, because we don't get many of these because baseball is an everyday thing. So um, hopefully today, maybe I can hit the golf course. The guys are already out there, so I'll catch them on the back nine. That could be cool. But
Ah,
yeah, yeah. So that's and I think that is a big part of you know part of this job, because the camaraderie that we create. We're here with the radio people. We're here with the guys on our telecast, and I think that's kind of very important to creating that chemistry that you guys bring to the air, where people feel like, hey, we can get to know these guys because they actually like each other. And I do like everybody on our crew. And it's really, the best team that I've had that have been a part of my broadcast career. But to get back to your original question, because I can go on forever, as you guys know, I think
because you're
a
wait
little
I
bit
was
of
wait. I
wondering
don't
if
want
we
to
were going
interrupt
to
you.
get there.
No, Jemai's
but no,
letting off some steam right now. He's like, oh, anyway, I mean, what I was supposed to do was
this is
be bonding
therapeutic.
with my teammates, which is really
Yeah.
important. But sorry, dude,
We got to
I
get
didn't
that
make the
couch
schedule.
out for you so you can lay on it.
Oh, man, I know. Yeah, yeah, you know what? I might have to go back there and change the angle on my bed here, that I made up for you guys, by the way. I haven't had the service come in yet. I just kind of fluffed my pillow a little bit. You see, that one's a little bit dusty, but that's where I laid my head. But anyways, back to the original point. Favorite road city, and just a little insight too to even our relationship, Sophia and Adam. Like, I tell these long, extended, windy stories, so I got to be really concise. It's also, something that my producer, Amy Johnson, tries to get me to do in my storytelling and reports. So it's not just what I do on TV, it's a part of my life. I try to be more concise, and it's a difficult thing for me to do because I like to expound and give everybody every single detail of everything. So a thing that I always do with you, so I'm like, long story short, and the story ends up being like 30 minutes. But
You know what? Wait, you know what
back
I
to
say when you say long story short, I always say too late for that because
yeah,
it's too late. It's too late. But hey,
exactly.
that's I love that about you, and I have the same problem, and we can talk about this later. But telling a story in sometimes 15, and Adam, you know this
Mhm.
with sponsored reads and stuff, 15 to 20 seconds, and you have something to say that you have 5 minutes worth of like Charlie McAvoy or whatever you have on the Red Sox, and you got to get it into 15. It's very hard, and it sometimes I feel like I'd rather just not tell the story because I'm not doing it justice. So I get what you're saying. It's difficult. But anyway, go back to Hotlanta or your
Yeah.
favorite city.
So favorite road city. I mean, it's kind of I guess there's some bias because I am from Los Angeles. So I always love going back home because anytime I can marry the two things together is fantastic. So I love going to LA, even if it's in Anaheim, which is about an hour and a half from, where where my parents stay and my siblings. But it's still good to be there. And so that would be one of my tops. But I mean, if we're just talking about just strictly for the amenities, the ballpark, the people, I think I told you it was Toronto before. And as I sit here and think about it, I don't think that's changed for me. I absolutely love that city. And maybe it's because I love you, my fellow my Canadian friends. But I love Toronto because the diversity, the ballpark is sneaky top five for me, as far as
Wow.
experience in the league. When they open the roof, though, there's a caveat.
Yeah.
So when the
Yeah.
roof is open and you see the Space Needle there, or I don't even know, it's not called the Space
CN
Needle. What's it
Tower.
called?
CN Tower. It's called
CN
the CN
Tower. Yeah,
Tower.
that's Space Needle
Yeah. Yeah.
Seattle. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So when that is open and it's a sunny summer day, I mean, you're hard pressed to find, 26 more ballparks that are better than that, I guess, in that moment. So it's sneaky top five for me. So I love Toronto. We stay at amazing accommodations. So it always feels like you're working, but you're kind of resort style living a little bit. Like you're enjoying kind of the enjoying life. So I like
Yeah.
Toronto. It's up there, and I'd say right now that's probably one of the tops for me. One of these days I'll tell you about my top five, but that's probably one of the top cities for me.
I mean, obviously I love that answer. And like I haven't toured baseball. I've seen some games when when I was a kid, I guess, when we'd go to other cities, I'd catch games, but not to the extent like that I'm working in it. So to hear that the Rogers Center, which was formerly the Sky Dome, way better name, is one top five, that means a lot to me. And obviously such a great city. Adam, you've seen baseball cities, you've seen hockey arenas, you've seen them both. Do you have do you have a favorite, and what are your qualifications? Like Jahmai put in the stadiums, which when I was thinking mine, I didn't even think about that. I was thinking more like restaurants, walking around, blah blah blah. But what are your like criteria, and what are your top one or two?
All right, do I have to make up time because Jahmai's long, windy road that he went down, or can I expound a little bit on my answer?
The mic is yours.
You're
Take as
wasting your
much
time
time as
right
you
now
want.
by taking shots at me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But you know what?
Never waste,
I
never
feel
waste.
satisfied by taking a few shots. No. You know what? So yes, I've traveled with both teams. It's been a while since I've traveled with the Red Sox. I started doing sideline with the Red Sox back in 2014 and did it for a couple of years on and off. So I didn't go to a ton of big league ballparks or cities. So I'll stick with mostly like hockey because I'm a victim of recency bias because I've been doing it the last couple of years, a lot more this year. So I think I went to every single city except for Minnesota and Winnipeg, which was a Razor trip actually right before Christmas. So
Yeah.
I haven't been.
I remember.
Yeah, so I did go to Minnesota to cover the Twins Red Sox series back in like 2014, but I haven't been to the Excel. Was it Excel Energy Center? I think it is in Minnesota. I think that's correct. But anyway,
Yeah, I think that's right.
yeah. So yeah, but I've been everywhere else. I really enjoy. So I went on the Western Canada trip this year, which was cool because I had never been to any of those cities, including Seattle. It was my first time out in Seattle. So I was really looking forward to going on that trip. And I wasn't disappointed because, I went, we did. So for those who don't know, it's Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, and then we ended up finishing in Seattle. Vancouver's awesome. It's beautiful. I had heard that it was beautiful. And I actually had an opportunity to do some sightseeing in Vancouver, which was really cool. So Judd Surratt, who is the play-by-play radio voice for the Boston Bruins on the Sports Hub, he and I actually rented mountain bikes. And we went mountain biking.
Sick.
Yeah, and we got to oh man, I can't remember what is the name of that park, Sophia?
Stanley Park. Stanley Park.
Yes, Stanley Park. Thank you. So, yeah, we actually rented bikes. We not tandem. We didn't get a tandem bike. We each got individual bikes.
That would have been cute though.
And we went for a ride. to like around and saw all the sights, and that was really cool. And then if I love Toronto. I was just there for 5 nights plus 2 more with the Bruins, and I loved our hotel location, because I know you could both speak to the fact that, like, if you're within walking distance of the arena from the hotel, it's a game changer.
That's big
Yeah.
time.
And if the weather's nice, yeah, it's huge. So I really love that. I love Toronto as a city, and I loved Washington D.C. I loved going down there. I stayed in like the Georgetown area one of the times. Did all the sightseeing, did the Smithsonian stuff. It was really cool. So those 3 right there are definitely tops on the list.
Listen, I've changed my answer like 1,000 times listening to you guys, because I'm like, oh wait, I gotta think about this criteria, that criteria. For sure, home, Toronto, like mostly because I don't even see the city. I just go see my parents. So like that's obviously that. But in terms of a road city to travel to, Vancouver's amazing. Seattle was up there for me. I didn't think I was going to like it. And a lot of, the staff on the Bruins, some of the people I'm friends with or NESN are like, because it is, there are some rough parts, right? There are some rough parts, and they're like, really,
Yeah.
Seattle? But I think it's a beautiful city. I like grit, and I like kind of unique, like artsy vibes, in the sense that I want to go to a coffee shop that doesn't look like any other coffee shop I've been to, or a breakfast place, like not cookie cutter. I mean, I love chains too. I'll grab a Dunkin', but I like when somebody starts a business because it's their passion and whatever they're good at, whether it's making sandwiches or pastries, and they don't have a lot of money, but they put their heart and soul into it. I feel like I found that in Seattle. And then this is where the hot take comes in. I wouldn't say, now
I've
that
been
I think
waiting for
about it,
this.
I'm like, okay, yeah. So I've told it to some people, and they're like, this is your favorite city? Listen, I love Montreal. I love Vancouver. I love my Canadian cities. But one that I legitimately look forward to
Hey,
going
easy with that
to,
mic.
I know, I'm a hand talker too. One that I legitimately love going to, guys, for the reasons I
Bum, bum,
just said,
bum.
artsy, like it's turning around. I feel like there's a little bit more money being poured into it in terms of unique businesses. It's Detroit. I love going to Detroit.
God.
I knew you were going to
I
freak out.
swear, you could have given me 100 guesses. I would have never
Never?
guessed Detroit. Of all places,
Okay.
Detroit.
I
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I think
So
it's
artsy.
beautiful.
So
Yes.
okay,
Okay,
so
go ahead.
I'll say
Interrogate.
where the Little Caesars Arena is, they've done a lot of, gentrifying the area, so it does look nice, but I mean, culturally, please enlighten me. Detroit?
I know that's like a hot take. And when I've told that to other people, they're like, out of all the places in the world, that's where you like to go. Like I said, Montreal, hands down, Toronto, Vancouver, Seattle, even, and Washington. Oh my God, Adam. I can't say enough about Washington. But what I like about Detroit, I guess I just like seeing, first of all, the architecture is like beautiful. It was such a, amazing city back in the day when it was thriving. I find the architecture beautiful. But where we stay with the Bruins, and I don't even know the area, it is what within walking distance to so many new businesses run by, like I said, families or young couples or people that are just trying to make it. And I think, they're renovating buildings, they're like giving them a facelift. And I kind of walked around the city on my lunch break, and I had an amazing lunch at this random cafe. There's kind of art displays everywhere. Yes, it is dangerous. Like at night, I remember kind of walking home when it was getting dark, and I was like, I don't really like this scene. But I do feel like that city's on the up and up, and I just like experiencing the new businesses, I guess.
Yeah, so I
So
mean, you're definitely boosting Detroit tourism right now.
Thank you.
yeah, and I'm not gonna like fight with you on that, Soph, because I haven't been to Detroit enough to make a case against that. I just know that the reputation, obviously, that the city has, right? So I don't doubt that. I know you're hosting, but I actually had a sort of a point to make about the difference between baseball and hockey.
Yeah,
With
go.
with hockey, we can be in and out, right, of a city. We usually
Hmm.
arrive the night before a game. If we're in and out, or generally speaking, we never arrive same day, right? Unless it's like the
Yeah,
preseason, right?
yeah.
So we'll arrive the night before, and then the game might be the next night, but before that is like a morning skate. So you have this sort of limited window wherever you are to sort of walk around, right? So after morning skate, you could do a little walking, have some lunch or whatever, but you still have to prep for the game, as you know. With baseball, like you're Jahmai, like you're in the city for 3-4 days sometimes, right? And you may be playing every night, but you have that
Yeah.
sort of daytime to sort of maybe walk around a little bit. You have to prep as well, obviously. But you could also be in a city for 3 games, and one of those games is a day game. So you could experience walking around on your lunch break and then going to the park and then have a day game and then, go out at night potentially, right? It's where you could sort of experience that aspect. And that's the difference sort of between baseball and hockey generally. It was different this time around, Soph, when I was in Toronto, because
Because it was
in the
playoffs,
playoffs,
right? Yeah.
right? So you'll have a couple of games, and it was even more unique because there was 2 days in between games. So I had more of an opportunity to see Toronto than I ever had before. So it was
Yeah.
but that's the difference between hockey and baseball in terms of exploring the city, I think.
Yeah, actually, we had a rehearsal last week. Jemai and I did, and I think you were on the road, so you couldn't be part of it. But that's pretty much what we talked about for
He was in
45 minutes,
Toronto,
like the
spending
difference.
48 hours out there.
He was
That's
in
where he
Toronto.
was.
There you go.
Enjoying the
That's where he
city.
was.
That's right.
But
That's right.
we kind of talked about that. We were like the differences between baseball and hockey, and it's true. I feel like maybe if I had 4 days in Detroit, because it's one of those things that when you just get a little taste of something, you want more. It's still like alluring. That's what the hockey road life is like for the most part. Like there are 1 or 2 days in the schedule, maybe 5 max, where you have more than a day in a city. But you get a little taste. You're driving by on the team bus. You're looking. You're like, oh, I want to try that. I want to try that. So maybe if I had a week in Detroit, I'd be like, okay, not my favorite city anymore because I've kind of seen it all. But when you're just there for like an afternoon and you just have like 4 hours to explore it, I felt like there were things that I wanted to keep doing, but I had to obviously get to the game. So that's probably like a really good point to make, that you're spending that much time in the city, right? And Jemai, it was a rehearsal, so the fans
Yeah,
aren't going to hear about it, but we can talk about,
right.
like, that's what you're going through right now, right? How many days are you going to be in Atlanta?
Well, we're here for 3 days. So off day today, game tomorrow, game Wednesday, and then we fly home. So we'll probably be landing at like 2 in the morning at Logan, and then I'll be making my way into my house probably about 3:30. So looking forward to that. Uh, but I hate to bring a damper on your Detroit. I actually, as you started to expound more on your reasoning, I started to find reasons why I actually like Detroit a lot, and part of that is the culture. It is a culturally expansive city. They got Motown, obviously, and I did go to the Motown Museum, so I remember that was a time that I did that and spent a lot of time down there. They're big on their pizza, Detroit style pizza, obviously, but we actually stay like 30 minutes out in the suburbs. We didn't even stay in the city anymore.
Oh,
But the times that I've experienced Detroit downtown was when I'm there for like conventions or things of that nature, and then previous jobs, which is, I hate to bring down Detroit, but I'm about to share this story from 2016. 2016. Story time with Jemai. Let's go. New
okay,
segment that we
let's
bring into
go.
this extra time every episode. So 2016, I'm working in Denver and covering the Broncos. They're playing the Lions. So this is like I think it's like a Sunday night baseball, which is on NBC. So we get there like Friday, do some live reports for the day. Saturday, we do some more. So it's like Saturday, we're doing something for the early show, taping something for the night show. And they're like, hey, let's go get pizza right down the street. It's literally from around the corner from Little Caesars Arena, some space that's kind of like in the cut. And it's across from this park, but this is this great spot we got recommendations for. So we finished our live shot. My photographer's like, all right, let's go. I'm gonna drop my camera off because we're picking somebody else up. I'm gonna leave my camera there, but I'll leave like my live view, which is this electronic device for folks. Sorry to go too inside TV, but this electronic device that allows us to transmit from wherever, kind of on the run. So this live view, he's like, I'm gonna leave it in the car, the rental car, leave my backpack and stuff, and then we'll go. But I want to make sure the camera's up. So I'm like, all right, cool, let's do it. So I took my bag upstairs and left it at this place where we were picking up our other colleague. So we get to the place, go eat, have a great time, spend maybe 3 hours in there, come out, and it's dark, and it's across from this park. And I'm just like walking, I'm like, what is that? So it's like a line of 20 cars. All have gotten the windows busted in. And I'm looking and I'm
Oh,
looking, I'm falling, and I see our rental, and I'm like, oh my God, our rental got busted. Looking at, and we're like, dude, we didn't have much in there, but there was a live view. I'm like, where's the live view? So someone stole the live view and did like
oh
a
man.
smash and grab on this road,
Oh
20
man.
cars in Detroit. Obviously, this was like 8 years ago, but this is part of the reputation. So, long story short, so fast forward to us getting back. So we had to return the rental car. We had to call the station. They're like, "Well, where's the live view?" And this thing is electronic, basically powered by cell phone. So we're like, "Can't you guys track it?" They're like, "No, we got to turn it on to be able to figure out where it is." So we lost the live view. Had to get them to ship it overnight so we can do our stuff on the game day. Actually,
Right,
or
right.
we had an affiliate there in Detroit, so we borrowed theirs. So then we get back to Denver. So still no live view. Like 2 months later, this guy from a pawn shop in Detroit calls the station because it says property of KMGH. He's like, I have
No
no idea
What?
what this is, but somebody is trying to sell me this. And it says property of KMGH. So I looked you guys up. I'm like, how valuable is this? And he's like, and then our manager's like, wait, is the guy still there? Call the police, keep him there. And he's like, the
Wow.
guy must have known that he was, doing this. So he grabs the live view, runs out of the pawn shop, never to be seen from again. We never got the live view back, but that's about as close as we got to getting it. And that's like my
Wow.
epic Detroit story. And that's why you
Man.
that
say Detroit and all these memories start flooding back in.
Yeah,
dude, that is an epic story. Go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, Jahmai, like while all that was happening, Sophia was at a local spot getting some lunch and talking to the owners about how the businesses
A
are so
wonderful
great.
day. The
Yeah.
pastries are
There's,
so
hey, what's
good.
that
Yeah.
noise? What's that smashing
Yeah.
glass noise? Oh, the sandwich
Yeah.
is great.
The artisan
And I
coffee.
was like,
No,
dude.
listen, fair, totally fair. And like when
And it happens in
first of all,
other
epic
cities too. It's not
story.
just Detroit.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's ever happened to our Bruins crew, but I know our producer every night makes sure now, probably because of similar stories, but we take all the gear in the van. We rent a van and it's a lot of gear, camera, this and that, it's heavy. We all kind of take it in tripods, live view, but no matter what city we're in, we take it to the hotel because it is extremely valuable equipment. But dude, I mean, like that would leave a sour taste in my mouth for sure, for forever. And it does
Lasting
happen in
memory.
other cities. Yeah, for sure. But but great story now. Sorry to the producers and the
Yeah.
people who had to pay
Yeah.
for it, but great story. And the fact that like I don't know how much that guy would have gone at the pawn shop because it's extremely valuable, but not unless you're a producer working in live television. You know what I mean? I wonder what he would have gotten
Right.
anyway.
I know. I mean, I don't know how much you can sell a live view for. I mean, he just was like, this has got to be expensive. I'm grabbing it, whoever the perpetrator was. But I'm a big believer in karma, so he's probably in jail at this point. Who knows?
Yeah, and
Listen,
somebody probably was using a live view TV reporter to tell the story of how he got arrested. That's the irony of it. Somebody's doing a live shot outside the jailhouse, be like, "Yeah, this guy just got busted."
I
Trying to
walked
sell
around
TV
the
equipment.
first time I landed in Detroit with our producer Z, you guys know Zachello. He they were going out for dinner. I wanted to work out at the gym first at the hotel. So I met them like an hour and a half later and I walked and it was dark. And I remember walking and it was sketchy. It was like I was like, this is a bad idea. But it was honestly like a 6-minute walk. So I'm not gonna Uber. But I remember feeling like, did I just do something stupid? And there were cops kind of just monitoring everywhere. So I felt a bit safer. But I got there and the guys, Brick and Beer Z and Z were like, how'd you get here? And I walked and they were pissed. Like they're nice guys, but they were like, are you kidding me? Like, don't ever do that again. Kind of like my big brother, or like my dad, which I appreciate, but they're like, don't ever do that again. And that's something that also, I remember, like I said, that part of Detroit, I was like, but anyway, I get what you're saying, but I think that city, and I hope for its sake, is on the up and up because there's some beautiful stuff to
Oh, it
check out for
definitely
sure.
is. And I'll be there later this summer, so send me all your hotspots. I'll be able to try them out,
Bring me back a
continue to
pastry.
change my perception.
Bring me back a pastry. Guys, we don't have that much time left, a couple minutes, and we went off on that topic, which is great. But obviously, The Bruins are in round 2, which is amazing. The Red Sox, Jahmai, like you said, you're going to be landing at 3 a.m. in a couple of days. Adam's not on the road. He's usually been on the road, but it's Razor now. And thank God, Adam has been double, I don't know if you know, but double duty. Like Bruins playoffs, gets off the plane, off the jet, runs to NESN, hosts Red Sox, and then also hosts them the next day. And after hosting, runs back to Game 7 to be the reporter. Like Adam, you deserved
Dude, so
a day off.
I saw that and I had to scratch my head for a second, AP. I didn't realize that you had to do that on that second game because it was Game 7. You hosted Red Sox, and then I saw the interview you had post game with Jim Montgomery. I was like, wait a second, how's this dude everywhere?
Yeah, man. It was busy. It was busy. That is unusual. Like that's not like the norm. So yeah, it was pretty wild because like we weren't sure, how the series was going to play out with the Bruins, right? So, I typically, and Jahmai and Sophie, you could speak to this too, we get our schedules well in advance, right? It's not like a week-to-week thing, a month-to-month thing even. We get our schedules before the season starts because it's such a long season, and obviously people have lives to, and they want to take time off. And so you want to be sensitive to that and appreciate that. And so that's how our schedule comes out. And so this year, because I was doing more Bruins, like practically the whole season, but still keeping like my Red Sox. So I do about 40 pre and post games a summer,
for Red Sox?
along with some other stuff.
Okay.
Yep, for Red Sox. And sometimes it starts really early. Like last year, it started in the first weekend of the season. Sometimes it starts a little bit later. This year, it was actually supposed to be the Giants series at Fenway, but because the Bruins made the postseason, because NESN has the first round of playoff games, you were off, Jahmai, and so TC did a couple of reports in game as well as pre and post. So we all try to help each other out is the sort of the point there. But because the Bruins had a 3-1 lead, I was scheduled to do the Twin series, or at least 2 out of 3 of the Twin series, which would have landed right before Game 7, a potential Game 7. But you think with the Bruins having a 3-1 lead, that shouldn't be a problem. We'd be all right. But then,
exactly.
But then obviously the series got 7. And so I'm like, all right, like, how is this going to work? So looking at it, I was like, all right, I think I can do it. So, as long as, the team flight was on time and there were no issues with getting through customs or anything like that, to be able to make it. And so, yeah, it was just a whirlwind, man. Like I was kind of trying to I've been following the Red Sox, but I've been following the Bruins a lot more closely naturally, right? Because I've been with the team.
Right.
So, I did a little bit of a jam session, a cram session rather, on the plane home. But it ended up working out. And then, just kind of running on fumes, going to the Garden, but it's Game 7. Like once you get there, it's like, all right, this is huge. Like so I was powered by that. But yeah, it was pretty wild, man. It was pretty wild stretch.
I think for me, the hardest thing would be even though I'm sure it was, you're running on fumes physically, but for me, it's mentally keeping track of both storylines. And it's one thing to keep track on the surface where you're having a drink with your friends and talking about the Red Sox and the Bruins, but you're the reporter. You have to know everything. You're the host. You have to know everything. And that part would be mentally exhausting. So kudos to you. I'm sure if I had to do it, I could do it, but I'm glad I just have one team to follow closely. Jahmai, I don't know if you could jump into the Bruins, but imagine you had to jump into Game 7, you'd be like, what is happening right now?
Hey,
right?
Let's do that hockey. Come on, I'm ready. So I'd be down for that.
So funny, man.
Period.
Listen, we got it. I'm gonna have to talk to the bosses to see if we can do a crossover somehow, some way. I would love to do a Bruins ringside game or something. That'd be awesome. Just to get with those guys.
I think I want you to do one. Just even, I don't want to say shadow because, you don't have stuff to learn, but if you could tag along with me and Adam for a couple even games, I think you would fall in love with it. Not saying you don't like them, but when you get to know them, you'd fall in love with this team so fast, right, Adam? They're the nicest guys. And the Garden, especially playoffs, the most electric place. Even a regular Tuesday game in the middle of the regular season sometimes can be one of the most electric places. I wish you could do it. So come along with us once in the winter.
Yeah, well, we saw you have this epic reaction on social media to that Pasternak Game 7 goal. So that was like that was actually an amazing just peek behind the curtain. So I'm glad that they did that and we got to see because I mean, naturally, like I think it's like you root for these teams to do well because when they do well, it's a job is much more fun. So to see them advance and have that moment, it's like you feel a part of it in a way where kind of the emotions come out and it was just like this raw thing and it was very cool to see. And I'm glad that everybody got to see that, you have such a potty mouth too. So it was really a highlight of who Sophia is as a person.
Yeah, you get both. You get the like proud like excitement and then a bit of an F-bomb in there. But that was like I didn't know the camera was on us, obviously. Like that was a game cam, had no idea, or the TD
Mhm.
Garden cam, had no idea. But if they had caught it before, I was doing this. I was like, oh God. I was checking my pulse because my heart rate was so high. For real. For real. And then I'm getting ripped all over the internet for, not living in the moment. Everyone's like, "Oh, she had to grab her phone." Kind of regret it, but
Oh
I was
man, come on.
FaceTiming my family. My brother was with my dad and, I just wanted to show them the vibes and whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever, but it was definitely
Yeah, I mean,
one of my top moments in covering this team. Like just electric, electric.
and that's what I miss too, like that's what makes it all worthwhile. And like I'm hoping that we get another postseason run because with the Red Sox, we haven't experienced that or tasted that since 21. This is a team that, won 17 games to much to everybody's surprises in the first month of the season. You feel good about that with the roster that they've had to piece together, the injuries that they've had to overcome. And that's the beauty about 162, to take a phrase from Alex Cora, because it is a marathon. And we just came off a series where the Minnesota Twins won 12 straight games. They were 7-13, and then they got 19-13, and now they're back in the mix. You know what I mean? So it can change just like that for you in baseball, and that's why those games where you blow a 5-run lead in April and you feel like it's
Yeah.
just another one. We get back to you when you get to September and October. You start to think back like, whoa, we could have had that one. It could be the difference between a wild card and not being in the playoffs. So
Yeah,
still
Jahmai.
excited about this team. We'll see.
And I can make a slight comparison to the Bruins, right? They're going into this year, Patrice Bergeron retires, David Krejci retires. They have all this turnover, and people weren't giving them much hope, right? They weren't projected to win the division or come close, or even some cases make the postseason. But then they end up, they led the National Hockey League for a while. In terms of
Yeah.
points, and we're that close, came down to the final day for the division, but here we are, advancing the second round. I really enjoy, I think most people do, right, when something happens that's unexpected, right? So to your point, Jemai, about the Red
Mhm.
Sox, nobody was expecting them to be, even in the conversation for the postseason, especially when all these injuries that they endure, that had experienced at the beginning of the year, losing Lucas Giolito, and now you're dealing with more injuries and Trevor Story and all those things. But here we are, this taping, they're a few games over 500. They just beat the Twins. So it's a lot more fun when it's a surprise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hate to cut you off, guys, but this show is called Extra Time, and we are going into extra time right now. We are getting the wrap. See, Jemai, just talking like friends, and time flies. I know you got to go golfing though, so go catch your
Yeah, we got
guys.
tea time at
Um, yeah,
I'm
you
getting
have
a
a tea
text from
time.
Steve Tagarellis who's joining me. He's like, dude, what's up?
Okay. Tell
Oh
Tags we say
man.
what's up. Tell him we say what's up. Also, I wanted to I know this is a podcast that we're doing once a week. We've got another one that I'm also hosting. I'm really excited about, called Respect Her Game. NESN's really up in their podcast life and their availability. There's another one that's Monday to Friday, and it's called Boston Has Entered the Chat. Travis Thomas, George Balecki are hosting that. So that's Monday to Friday. That's different than this, more of like a reaction analysis of what's
Yeah.
going on in the Boston sports scene. So you
And
guys can catch that.
you can't forget our Red Sox won 310 to left with TC and Alex Spear from the Boston Globe. And
Very nice.
when TC can't do it, I'll be filling in and joining that podcast as well. So Looking forward to doing more of these, but most importantly, looking forward to being with you two.
Me too. That's what. Hey, I'll end the show like I started it with one more little rip towards Jahmai, who I love.
Oh gosh,
But
join the
no,
club, join the club.
so I told them that I told our bosses, because like we're doing these podcasts and you with Ness, and I was like, listen, Jahmai and I have a great chemistry. I don't see him a lot. I'd really like to like make sure he's involved somehow. And I told Jahmai, he's like, yo, man, you're making me work more than I already work. And I said, you didn't have a choice. Like, you got to be part of these podcasts. We're doing this. At least you get to do it with us, with Soph and Adam, right?
Yeah,
That's the bright side,
she did.
right?
She did say that. I'm like, dude, just keep my name out your mouth. I'm like Will Smith with the
Oh,
Chris Rock situation.
oh,
I'm like, listen, just let me slide, please. And then look at me.
Let me sleep.
She recommended me to this, and now here we are. So
I'm
hopefully it's
so
good,
happy
and
you're here,
we have a good
Jahmai.
run.
It's so great. It's so
Jeez.
great.
Well, one of you next week, we're going to do this again for episode 2 next week. One of you is going to host, but for now we're going to end it. Follow us on socials as well. And guys, Jahmai, go enjoy your golf. Adam, enjoy your day. We'll talk to you next week.
Let's go.